it's a little bit sad because we live in a culture that has so stigmatized it that people are almost embarrassed to share that they are enjoying cannabis. So not only do we not know that it's helping people, but we don't let the people for whom it is helping share their stories.
I started taking cannabis because I have a weird problem with my hands. It's called focal dystonia.
I started consuming cannabis for two reasons. So I have chronic pain from a degenerative condition that I've inherited from my mother called EDS, or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which primarily affects the joints. It's in response to a defect in collagen production, and it can also affect multiple different organs and have sort of systemic failure. And I'm also an insomniac, so it helps me get to a place where I'm able to fall asleep and stay asleep. Right now, because it's not accepted federally, more so at the state level, that it's probably best if I do this anonymously.
It helps with depression. I do suffer from depression. When I think back, hindsight being 2020, I see that I always have. So for me, it helps to neutralize the feelings of being depressed. In addition to medication, it doesn't mean I don't take medicine. I do daily, but this just helps to take the edge off even further for me.
Several years ago, I developed this focal dystonia where it became very difficult for me to hold a pen and write smoothly. My writing would almost look like it's a scrawl, a childish scrawl. About almost 10 years ago, I developed focal dystonia on my left hand too, where my outer fingers began to curl in. And since I play hand percussion, this became a problem because, to be able to play and to keep my hands straight, it was not easy to do at all. And the thing about focal dystonia is that there is, till so far, no allopathic cure.
The pain that from the condition that I have can be pretty difficult to manage. In terms of over-the-counter medications, they don't quite cut it, or they leave you feeling off-centered or somewhat sedated, and it's difficult when you're just in chronic pain.
CED Clinic is a medical clinic like any other, except we're dealing with medical cannabis instead of Western pharmaceuticals. So the philosophy, the sort of orientation is a little bit different to begin with. It's not so much about the doctor telling patients what to do, which is what we're used to in Western medicine, where the doctor will give a diagnosis, will give a treatment plan, will give refills. Cannabis medicine is more about a collaboration or a guidance. I'm here in clinic to guide people with their use, with their interests. It starts with them and what they're looking for, and we know the product is basically healthy. We're not seeing toxicity at alarming rates or concerning effects from cannabis over the long term. So with that foundation, it's about me supporting patients with their adventure.
I usually use edibles. For me, I tend to microdose more than using it to sort of get that the psychological benefit. So for me, it's given me a quality of life where I'm less focused on the pain and more focused on, being present and being at work and doing all the things that I need to do.
Definitely, medical marijuana has helped me in the sense, I literally feel my hand, particularly my left hand, which is very affected, which is the one that I'm having issues with, in terms of playing. I definitely feel my left hand straightening up, my fingers straightening up. It's almost like my hand and my fingers are coming alive.
Some people see it as a crutch, or I'm weak, or no. It doesn't mean any of those things. You need a little push every once in a while. You need a little escape every once in a while. You need, like anybody. I'm a very responsible human being. Highly educated, 3 children, grown, fully functioning, adults. I have a granddaughter, so I am the anti-stigma, I guess.
I think stigma is a sort of maybe a cultural tool to shame people from doing something which we as a culture think is not good.
I think the stigma, my mentality was that the only people really using pot were these stoners.
I think we're barked, man.
And the cult was in the aliens, man. You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, man, they were way into that type of stuff, man.
George tote weed. Man.
Absolutely, George tote weed. Are you kidding me, man?
There really hasn't been a whole lot of focus on people using it from a medical standpoint.
To make people feel shame for helping themselves or doing what they feel is helping them just causes pain.
Myself being multilingual, I could pursue work in, say, the hospital as an interpreter or, say, the court systems as an interpreter. However, I do believe that I would be forced to piss in a cup, which I will not do. How fair is that, really? Think about it. I'm just as qualified as any interpreter in the system. I just smoke pot.
I definitely do not talk about it at work. I would be concerned about somebody finding out that I use cannabis and think that I, could be using it at work irresponsibly.
Don't let the stigma of something just stop you from trying something, especially now when its effects are when it's the medical effects of this plant are becoming so much more out in the open. They're becoming so much more apparent.
Cannabis has come a long way in the last 100, 200 years, from being demonized as the sort of devil's lettuce, and it was a stepping stone to crack and death.
No one has to alter your brain. You've already volunteered to do it to yourself.
She won't answer you. Or she can't.
Why not?
This is the way it's been since she started smoking pot.
It had always been a stigma, something you didn't do, something you were, breaking a law, you were a bad person. Well, actually, okay, so the biggest negative side effect is that it makes you have the munchies.
Don't let the the so-called stigma to come into your thinking. I would say definitely give it a try. Give it a genuine try. Meet with a doctor, consult with them, and let them explain what happens and what forms of cannabis that you can take. And you should definitely give it a try. I mean, if it doesn't work, fine. Don't have it anymore. If it helps you, that's just great.
The process for me getting into cannabis is nothing, it was nowhere on my radar in any world. Through medical school, I wanted to be contributing to primary care. I mean, that's what I did for a little while. And I kept hearing from my patients that, oh, cannabis was helping me with this, or, I don't really need that medicine. I have cannabis to help with that pain. And I was always struck by how strange that seemed, because wait a minute, I learned everything about, I thought I knew about medicines, I thought I knew about cannabis, and what I learned was that this was evil. But here I am, seeing these normal patients finding tremendous success with it. So I was curious, and I dove into the literature, and I traveled around and I met doctors and asked their opinions about how they were sort of engaging with cannabis. And I ultimately found out that there was just a huge empty space, that there was a ton of research there. And there were clinicians on the sort of off the beaten path who were engaging with it, but nobody really was reading the literature actively, taking it seriously, and then kind of bringing that to patients. We have to be open to people choosing different methods of treatment than what we might choose, and to not necessarily criticize that or judge that in a negative way, but to be open. And I think once we're open, we'll be able to learn that other people have different choices and make different choices, and they can be okay. It might not be things that we would choose, but for someone else it can be nice. So I think as the next few years roll on, we're going to start hopefully embracing cannabis and the endocannabinoid system as just a normal part of what it means to be alive.
It brings my hand alive. It brings my fingers alive. Now that doesn't mean that it's, don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that it's totally cured it, not at all. Not at all, but definitely it helps me to play.
I discovered it helped me to feel less anxious and less depressed, and to be better able to cope. And so that's what prompted me to get my medical license.
Your insurance doesn't pay for the medical marijuana and you have to pay for it out of your pocket, but health comes first. And if it's allowing you to live a better life, better quality of life, if it's allowing you to do things that you want to do, you love doing it, get what you need.